when Prince Harry, one of the most unpredictable figures in the modern royal world, sits across from Howard Stern, a host known for asking the questions most people avoid, the atmosphere changes instantly. There are no royal handlers, no polished palace PR filters, just two microphones and two very different personalities facing each other. Harry arrives expecting to correct the narrative. Howard arrives expecting real answers. Neither of them expects the interview to unravel as fast as it does. The Howard Stern Show studio carried its usual chaotic energy. Soft lighting, walls filled with decades of outrageous interview art, and the faint smell of coffee set the tone. Howard took his seat, pushing his hair behind his ears, the studio lights reflected off his glasses. He exchanged a quick glance with Robin Quivers and smirked as if he already sensed a storm approaching. The door opened, and Prince Harry walked in with a stiff, commanding presence. Navy jacket, dark shirt, chin raised slightly, his expression already annoyed as if the studio itself was an inconvenience. Robin leaned toward her microphone and whispered that he looked irritated already. Howard's smile only widened. Harry gave a short nod and sat down across from Howard, leaning back like he was trying to get comfortable in a seat that wasn't up to royal standards. Cameras rolled as Howard leaned into his microphone and began the conversation by jokingly asking whether he should bow, salute, or just go with the flow. He suggested he wasn't sure what protocol applied when interviewing someone known for rejecting protocol. Robin laughed, but Harry's expression hardened immediately. He told Howard there was no need for bowing and that he was no longer part of that circus. Howard raised an eyebrow and said that even if Harry had left the circus hadn't left him, which was exactly why the interview was happening. Harry crossed his arms, already irritated, and said he was there to tell the truth without the tabloids twisting his words. Howard replied that twisting wasn't what they did on his show, but asking direct and uncomfortable questions certainly was. The atmosphere tightened. Harry gave a small, smug smile and said he didn't mind as long as the questions were intelligent. Robin sensed the tension rising. Howard kept his grin and reminded Harry that the most intelligent questions were often the ones that made people uncomfortable. Harry exhaled and told him to get started. Howard opened with a simple question about Harry's life in America, asking how California was treating him. Harry shrugged and said it was tolerable, adding that it was better than living in a palace full of people pretending to care. Howard blinked in surprise and pointed out that most people would dream of living in a mansion in Montecito. Harry shrugged again and said that when one grows up surrounded by privilege, houses no longer impress them. Robin muttered quietly, while Howard sarcastically called Harry the Highness of Humility. Harry snapped and asked if there was a real question or if Howard was only trying to poke fun. Howard leaned forward and asked why Harry claimed to want to escape the spotlight, but then appeared on Oprah, released a Netflix series, went on a book tour, and was now sitting on his show. He asked if that wasn't contradictory. Harry's jaw tightened. He said it wasn't contradiction but control. He wanted to tell his own story instead of letting the press tell it for him. Howard tapped his pen and pointed out that being on the show still meant Harry wanted attention. Harry countered that it meant he wanted the truth to be heard clearly. Howard nodded and shifted the conversation toward Meghan. Robin inhaled sharply as Harry's irritation grew. Howard asked about public perception, their marriage, and the constant headlines, beginning his question with, "People say." Harry cut him off sharply and said people say many things, and most of them are stupid. Robin reacted quietly as Howard raised his hand and reminded Harry that he agreed to the interview, so the questions had to be asked. Harry's voice dropped colder as he said Meghan was stronger than anyone realized and that she was the reason he escaped the royal cage. Howard studied him and asked if she was genuinely happy. Harry snapped again, saying he didn't care what the press said, and that Howard shouldn't either. For the first time, Howard showed a flicker of frustration, though he kept calm. He then shifted the topic. He said they needed to talk about Harry's family. Harry rolled his eyes dramatically, saying that was all anyone ever wanted to discuss. Howard leaned closer and told him plainly that of course people wanted to talk about that. And that was the moment the conversation truly began to shift. Howard stared at him and said, "You're a prince, man." Harry gave a thin, cold smile. Not anymore. Howard's grin widened. Maybe not, but the attitude stayed. Harry stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? Howard didn't flinch. It means you walked in here with an attitude from the start. Harry's voice went icy. I'm honest. That's what bothers people. Howard replied quietly, no. What bothers people is the chip on your shoulder the size of Buckingham Palace. The tension in the studio felt almost physical, like static crackling between the microphones. Robin whispered that this felt like only part one of a much bigger meltdown. Howard's smile thinned slightly. He said they were just getting started. The studio lights hummed softly above them, but the atmosphere in the room was anything but calm. Howard leaned back in his seat, studying Harry with the focus of someone watching a bomb's timer count down. Harry sat rigid, arms crossed, chin slightly raised. Every part of him showed irritation, not explosive anger, but the slow-burning kind that warned people not to push him. Unfortunately for Harry, pushing people was exactly what Howard Stern excelled at. Howard adjusted his headphones and spoke calmly. "All right, Harry, let's talk about something easy, something everyone deals with." Harry lifted an eyebrow, already skeptical. Doubtful. Howard gave a sly smile. "Let's try anyway. Marriage. How's married life these days?" Robin drew in a sharp breath. Harry's shoulders tensed. "My marriage is exactly what it should be." Howard blinked. "That's extremely vague." Harry smirked. "Not everything needs to be explained to you." Howard tapped his fingers on the desk. "I'm only asking because people have noticed some things. You and Meghan haven't been photographed together much lately. The tabloids are saying—" Harry cut him off sharply. "The tabloids don't know anything about my life, and neither do the people who read them." Howard didn't react to the jab. "Okay, but you didn't deny what I said." Harry's jaw tightened. "I don't need to deny anything. The press survives on lies. If you want to be part of that circus, go ahead." Robin whispered that Harry was starting to lose control. Howard leaned forward slightly. "So you're saying everything between you two is perfect?" Harry's voice went colder. "I'm saying it's not your business." Howard nodded and scribbled a note. "Fair, but you wrote a book that made everyone feel like it was their business." The words landed hard. Harry's expression darkened. "I wrote a book to tell the truth." Howard shrugged. "Maybe so, but when you talk that much, people naturally have questions. And showing up here means you knew those questions were coming." Harry scoffed. "I came hoping you'd have substance." Howard raised an eyebrow. "I've been doing this before you were even born." Harry shot back. "Then maybe it's time to retire." Robin covered her mouth. Howard laughed, a low, dangerous laugh. "All right, your royal rudeness," he said. "Let's switch topics. Let's talk about your family." Harry let out a long breath and rolled his eyes. "Of course. That's all anyone sees me as, a doorway to gossip." Howard kept his gaze steady. "Well, you gave people plenty to gossip about. You talked about William's temper, Kate making Meghan cry, your father being distant." Harry cut in sharply. "I told my truth. If people can't handle honesty, that's on them." Howard stayed calm. "It's not the honesty people question, Harry. It's the tone." Harry smirked again, cold and dismissive. "My tone bothers people because it's confident. They expect me to stay quiet and humble, and I won't." Howard leaned closer. "You're confusing confidence with arrogance." Harry's eyes narrowed. "And you're confusing interviewing with poking a bear." Robin whispered that things were going downhill fast. Howard pressed on. "All right, let's talk about Diana." Harry snapped before the sentence even finished. "Don't." The entire studio froze. Harry continued, his voice tight with controlled anger, soft but sharp enough to cut. "Don't sit here and pull my mother into this for ratings." Howard stayed steady. "I wasn't dragging her in. I was asking how you think she'd view the man you've become." Harry's nostrils flared. "You don't get to ask me that." Howard folded his arms. "And you don't get to tell me what I can ask on my show." Harry leaned forward, jaw clenched. "You're crossing a line." Howard leaned in too, holding his gaze. "Lines get crossed when walls go up. And yours are sky high, Harry." Harry scoffed and said his boundaries were high, not his walls. Howard quietly corrected him, saying there was a difference. Robin whispered that things were starting to get scary. Harry pushed a hand through his hair, clearly irritated. "This is exactly what I expected," he said. "Another American host acting like they understand my life better than I do." Howard tilted his head. "I'm not pretending to understand your life. I'm trying to understand you, but you're making that nearly impossible." Harry's lips curled into a cold, dismissive smile. "Maybe I'm not here to be understood." Howard tapped his pen. "Then why are you here?" Harry looked away, jaw tight. "Because you begged my team for months." Howard blinked slowly. "Wow. So now we're rewriting history?" Harry smirked. "I don't need this show. You need me." Howard leaned back and Robin whispered, "And there it is." For the first time, a flicker of genuine anger passed across Howard's face. He didn't show all of it, but it was enough for Harry to notice and smile. The energy in the studio had changed. What started as tense had now turned outright volatile. Even Robin, who had witnessed countless blow-ups over the years, stared at the two men like she was watching a fuse burn toward an explosion. Howard placed both hands firmly on the desk, a calm but unmistakably serious posture. Harry, meanwhile, looked like he had fully embraced being the antagonist. His jaw was locked, his eyes sharp, his entire posture daring Howard to say something he didn't like. Howard broke the silence. "So," he said slowly, "you're claiming we begged for this interview?" Harry lifted his chin. "That's exactly what I'm saying." Howard shrugged. "Strange, because my producer is sitting right here shaking her head so hard she might hurt herself." Robin let out a nervous laugh. "It's true. We didn't chase him." Harry rolled his eyes at her. "You're all part of the same media machine, faking things for optics." Howard raised his eyebrows. "Buddy, you emailed us first." Harry stiffened. "I don't respond to lies." Howard exhaled and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "This is exhausting." Harry leaned back with a smug expression. "That's what happens when people finally get challenged. Most of you aren't used to it." Robin shot Howard a side glance. "He did not just say that." Howard leaned in, a blend of amusement and irritation in his expression. "Oh no, Harry. We get challenged constantly. We're New Yorkers. That's our entire personality. What we're not used to is guests showing up just to start a fight." Harry snorted. "Maybe I'm just not intimidated by you." Howard smiled thinly. "No one here is trying to intimidate you." Harry's voice hardened. "Then stop acting like you're above me." Howard looked genuinely confused. "Above you? You're the one who keeps reminding us you're a prince." Harry replied coldly, "I don't need to remind you. Everyone already knows." Howard paused. Robin whispered, "Oh my God." Howard tapped his finger on the desk. "So let me get this straight. You want to leave royalty behind, but you still want everyone to treat you like royalty?" Harry opened his mouth, hesitated for half a second, then the irritation returned even stronger. "You're twisting my words." Howard kept his voice calm. "I'm repeating your words." Harry snapped back, "Well, then you're repeating them wrong." Robin's eyes widened. "This man is unhinged." Howard folded his hands. "Let's switch to something lighter." Harry scoffed. "Right, because you've handled everything so well so far." Howard ignored the jab. "Spotify. The early end of your deal. Podcasters calling you untalented. The whole talentless comment aimed at you and your wife." Harry cut in, sharp as ice. "And you're bringing it up because—" Howard shrugged. "Because the whole world discussed it, and you said you wanted to control your narrative, so here's your chance." Harry leaned forward, his voice low and cutting. "My wife and I were treated unfairly. They wanted puppets. We don't pump out content like trained animals. We speak when we have something meaningful to say." Howard nodded slowly. "Okay, but some people felt the public expected more because—" Harry jumped in again. "The public expects too much. They always do. They're entitled." Howard stared at him. "Entitled? The public?" "Yes," Harry snapped. "Yes. Entitled. They think they deserve access to everything." Harry scoffed, shaking his head. "No, my boundaries are sky high." Howard corrected him quietly. "There's a difference." Robin whispered under her breath. "This is getting scary." Harry dragged a hand through his hair, visibly irritated. "You know what? This is exactly what I expected. Another American host acting like they understand my life better than I do." Howard tilted his head. "I'm not pretending to understand your life. I'm trying to understand you. But you're making that almost impossible." Harry's lips curled into a cold, dismissive smile. "Maybe I'm not here to be understood." Howard tapped his pen once. "Then why are you here?" Harry looked away, jaw tight. "I'm here because you begged my team for months." Howard blinked slowly. "Wow. We're rewriting history now?" Harry smirked. "I don't need this show. You need me." Robin whispered. And there it is. The air in the studio changed instantly. What had been tense shifted into something volatile, something that felt like a fuse burning toward an explosion. Howard set both hands on the desk, calm but firm, done with games. Harry, on the other hand, looked fully committed to being the antagonist. Rigid posture, tight jaw, eyes daring someone to challenge him. Just when the silence felt unbearable, Howard broke it. "So you're saying we begged for this interview?" Harry lifted his chin. "Exactly." Howard pointed toward his producer. "Interesting. She's right there shaking her head no hard enough to sprain something. Robin let out a nervous laugh. It's true. We didn't chase him. Harry rolled his eyes. You're all part of the same media machine. Pretending. Performing. Howard raised an eyebrow. Buddy, you literally emailed us first. Harry stiffened. I'm not responding to lies. Howard rubbed his forehead. This is exhausting, man. Harry leaned back with a victorious smirk. That's what happens when people get challenged. Most of you aren't used to it. Robin looked at Howard. He didn't just say that. Howard leaned forward, equal parts annoyed and entertained. We get confronted all the time. We're New Yorkers. But what we're not used to is guests coming here just to pick a fight. Harry let out a snort. Maybe I'm just not intimidated by you. Howard smiled thinly. No one here is trying to intimidate you. Harry snapped, then stop acting like you're above me. Howard frowned, genuinely confused. Above you? Dude, you're the one reminding us you're a prince. Harry shot back coldly. I don't need to remind you. Everyone already knows. Robin whispered, Oh my God. Howard drummed his fingers. So let me understand. You want to leave royalty behind, but you still expect everyone to treat you like royalty? Harry froze for just a second, then bristled. You're twisting my words. Howard stayed calm. I'm repeating them. Harry barked, then you're repeating them wrong. Robin shook her head. He's unhinged. Howard folded his hands. All right, something lighter. The Spotify situation. The deal ending early. Podcasters calling you untalented. That whole talentless comment. Harry cut in sharply. And you're bringing that up because... Howard shrugged. Because you said you want to control your narrative. Here's your chance. Harry leaned in, voice low and icy. My wife and I were treated unfairly. They expected us to be puppets. We don't perform on command. We speak when we have something important to say. Howard nodded. Okay, but some people say the public expected more because... Harry interrupted again. The public expects too much. Always. They're entitled. Howard stared. Entitled? The public? Yes. Harry snapped. Entitled. They think they deserve access to everything. Our thoughts, our lives, our past. I owe them nothing. Howard tapped his pen again. You did take millions from companies that depend on public engagement. Harry's nostrils flared. It was payment for our presence. Not our obedience. Robin whispered. Wow, just... wow. Howard continued. Let's talk about William. Harry's entire body tensed. No. Howard blinked. That was fast? Harry leaned forward. I said, no. Howard frowned. Harry, you wrote a whole chapter about him breaking a dog bowl over your head. Harry snapped, and I regret sharing that. People like you twist it. You paint him as perfect, and me as the villain. Howard's voice tightened. I read it from your own book. Harry slapped his knee. That doesn't mean you understood it. Context matters. Howard took a long breath. Okay, Catherine then... Harry exploded. Absolutely not. Leave her out of this. Howard blinked slowly. You're making this extremely difficult. Harry sneered. Not my problem. Howard inhaled sharply, a clear sign patience had officially run out. Robin murmured, Howard. He waved her off and leaned in. Harry, why did you even come here? Harry smirked, cold and arrogant. Because I can. Because you all need me. Without guests like me, you're irrelevant. Silence. Heavy, loaded silence. Howard sat perfectly still, but something behind his eyes shifted. The patience was gone. The curiosity was gone. Only cold clarity remained. Harry sat back proudly, mistaking the silence for power. Robin covered her mouth. Oh, this is bad. Howard exhaled, a controlled sound that felt more dangerous than yelling. Harry, he said quietly, I've interviewed people who survived war. People who lost everything. Addicts, leaders, victims, villains, geniuses, fools, and everything in between. Harry smirked. So now you're adding Prince to your collection. Howard didn't blink. No, I'm adding arrogance. The smirk vanished. Howard leaned forward, voice low and deadly steady. You came in here swinging at everyone. Your family, your country, your critics, the media, strangers, and now us. Harry scoffed. You're acting like you're some noble guardian of truth. You're just another media guy profiting off my name. Howard nodded once. Maybe, but here's the difference. I don't pretend I'm better than the people I criticize. Robin whispered, Jesus. Howard's voice sharpened. You sit here saying you don't care about attention, but everything about you screams you crave it on your terms. You call the public entitled, but expect the world to worship you because you walked away from a life most people can't even imagine. Harry lunged forward. You think my life was easy? You think a title makes everything perfect? You think I didn't suffer? Howard kept his tone even. I think you believe your suffering gives you permission to treat everyone else like dirt. Harry's jaw flexed. I don't have to sit here and take this. Howard shrugged. Then don't. Harry glared. You're doing what the British press did, twisting everything. Howard smirked. No, Harry. You're doing what toddlers do, throwing a tantrum the moment someone challenges you. Harry's face snapped into fury. How dare you? Howard shot back, voice like a blade. How dare you walk into my studio, insult me, my co-host, my team, and then pretend you're some enlightened truth-teller? Howard's voice stayed steady, but the impact landed like a punch. You're not enlightened, Harry. You're angry. You're lost. And instead of facing that, you attack anyone who reflects something you don't want to see. Harry suddenly shot up from his chair, the legs scraping so loudly it echoed in the studio. Oh, here we go, he mocked. Howard Stern, the great psychologist, analyzing the big bad prince. Howard rose too, not with aggression, but with the steady posture of a man reclaiming complete control of the room. Listen to me carefully, Harry, he said, lowering his voice until the silence felt electric. You're not in your palace, you're not protected by your royal title, and you are not above anyone in this room. Harry straightened his blazer, trembling with fury. You think I care about any of that? He snapped. Howard pointed toward the door. I think you care more about it than anyone else ever has. The studio went completely still. Then Howard delivered the final hit, each word cutting with precision. And let me make something perfectly clear. This is America. You're not a prince here, and you are not welcome on my show anymore. A collective gasp rippled across the room. Robin's hand flew to her mouth. For the first time, Harry just stood there, silent, stunned. His expression cracked, revealing something raw beneath the usual arrogance, rage, embarrassment, confusion, all flashing through his eyes at once. He grabbed his water bottle, knocked over his microphone in the process, and hissed, "You're pathetic." Howard didn't flinch. "And you're done. Get out." Harry stormed toward the exit, ripping off his mic pack so violently the cable snapped. A producer tried to stop the equipment from crashing to the floor, but Harry shoved forward without a glance. The studio doors slammed behind him like a final punctuation mark. Silence flooded the room. Howard finally sank back into his chair, letting out a long, tired breath. Robin whispered, "That was a disaster." Howard leaned toward the microphone, voice calm and professional again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize. We invited Prince Harry for a genuine conversation, but, well, you just witnessed exactly what happened." He exhaled slowly. You can't have a conversation with someone who refuses to hear anything but their own voice. The red studio light dimmed. The broadcast cut to commercial. And around the world, audiences stared at their screens in disbelief, watching a prince walk in dripping with entitlement and walk out stripped of it. If this shocking meltdown stunned you as much as it stunned us, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust me, you won't want to miss the next celebrity clash we have coming your way.